Everybody, and welcome back to another Dota 2 cast. This is going to be a game between Navi and Alliance, and if I am not mistaken, this is actually the first time that these two teams have met since the grand finals of the International 3. But it looks like Alliance's lineup is not going to be all there. I think Black is staying for Loda, who caught a fever. He got that Navi sickness, you know what I mean? And that's why Black is going to be standing in for Loda. Well, that's a bit unfortunate because I'm sure everybody was looking towards this rematch, but if both teams qualify for the LAN playoffs anyway, then we are going to potentially see that rematch, and it might be on a bigger stage than just a group stage match in Starseries, which is a very prestigious tournament, but it's not like the LAN finals of the tournament, or I guess some more... I don't know. It's a group stage match. That's pretty much all I'm saying. But Navi, they're playing with their full roster. Funnick, he has been stood in for a couple times. I have to assume he's been on vacation, and I know Havos has been on vacation too. But meanwhile, Alliance, they have just recently started playing and started getting back into form. I think they've just recently started playing in the past week and a half, so they might not all be there. And especially with Loda being stood in for, I don't know if they're going to be all there at all. But anyway, checking out the picks and bans, this is so similar to TI3. Alliance definitely feared the Lifestealer from Havost as well as the Darkseer from Funnick. Meanwhile, Navi have a lot of respect for EGM's Naga and would be too surprising to see if Chen was banned out by Navi. But if they do that, they will leave first pick Wisp open to Alliance as well as first pick Batrider. And keep in mind, Navi did allow first pick Wisp to go through towards Alliance a couple times, but the team who had the Wisp in the grand finals always managed to win. So I don't know if Navi really respect that or if they're just going to leave it through. If I had to guess, I think Navi would give up the Wisp just because I think they can do a lot more, especially since Loda's not playing, and EGM and Black probably won't have the same synergy as EGM and Loda. But of course, this is all pure guesswork, and I can't really be sure one way or another if that Wisp will be as useful, but looks like Navi gonna get rid of the Nature's Prophet, so gonna get rid of that annoying split pushing factor. And I like this choice quite a bit because if Alliance did pick up the Wisp, then they would have probably picked up Nature's Prophet as well, because as we all know, Bulldog, he's most known for two heroes, Lone Druid as well as Nature's Prophet.
10 seconds remaining.
And gonna be a bit blunt, after those two heroes there is a little bit of a drop off compared to Nature's Prophet and Lone Druid and the rest of Alliance's heroes, or the rest of Admiral Bulldog's offlane heroes, whether it be Bounty Hunter, Darkseer, even Batrider. They just do not compare in comparison to the Nature's Prophet and Lone Druid pick. But then again, keep in mind this is a group stage match, so I don't know if both teams are taking it too seriously. I'm not too sure of the standings. I know Navi is in the middle of the pack, and that Rattlesnake National, aka Kaipi, is right near the top, so I don't know how seriously these two teams are going to be taking this match, especially since Alliance are playing with the stand-in. But I've got to be assuming that this is just sort of, you know, one of those cute little rematches that both teams are looking forward to. As Navi going to snatch up the Batrider, and we'll see what they respond with it in kind, since Alliance did go for that first pick Wisp. Now, Batrider, of course, as you all know, a very strong mid laner. But his greatest strength comes from he can be placed anywhere. He can be placed in a tri-lane, he can be placed in the off-lane, and he will still be able to pick up his dagger at around the same time. And actually he picks it up even a bit sooner in the jungle oftentimes, because he doesn't have to worry about getting a magic wand or a TP scroll. He can just focus on jungling and getting that 9 to 10 minute dagger. But Navi gonna snatch up a Batten. It is a Batten, but I don't know. People are very insistent on calling him Abaddon, but I'm just going to call him Batten because whatever. But Abaddon, as you know, is probably one of the best counters to Batrider, since if you cast the Aphotic Shield, that will immediately dispel a Flaming Lasso, and without Flaming Lasso, Batrider's initiation definitely comes into suspect, although once Batrider picks up the Force Staff, there's only so much Abaddon can do. And keep in mind, Aphotic Shield only has a 350 cast range on its cast, so Abaddon will have to be right up next to the target that Batrider is focusing in order to really dispel that lasso. So Alliance is going to snatch up the Lone Druid, getting their Admiral Bulldog hero out of the way. It's going to be interesting to see what hero they decide to play for Black. Black, of course, a very strong farmer, but some of the criticisms that were leveled against him when they were playing, or when Mouse was playing in TI3, was Black's carry pool was real limited. And I think that's true to a certain extent. I think his best heroes are probably Lifestealer as well as the Alchemist. He has a pretty good Weaver, decent Phantom Lancer. I mean, but his trademark carries are really Leicester as well as Alchemist. So I'm not too sure what Alliance will go for here, since Alchemist is not really the best Wisp partner, and I don't know if Alliance will necessarily feel comfortable pairing Black with the Chaos Knight, especially since Black is more known to farm. But again, this is probably the only day that I will be playing with Black, so they might not even care how well their synergy fits in. Maybe they just don't care about this game too much and they're just gonna try to win it however they can rather than focusing on the comfort of their teammate, at least in this game. But Alliance gonna get rid of the Bounty Hunter. They really respect Funnick quite a bit, getting rid of two of Funnick's strongest heroes. And of course, keep in mind Alliance already snatched up Longitude and they snatched up the Wisp as well. So right now, Alliance to get rid of those offlane heroes, but I think they have to consider that Na'Vi are gonna put Barret in the offlane since Funnick's Barret is quite good. And if that's the case, which I'm sure Alliance is very well acquainted with, they're gonna try to find a nice mid lane matchup for S4. Maybe something like a I don't know. I don't know what Na'Vi will put in the mid lane. Usually Dendi likes to play those Pucks or Storm Spirits or those highly mobile heroes, but there isn't a Lifestealer bomb to accompany a Storm Spirit possibility, so I'm not too sure what Na'Vi will put in the mid lane to go up against the Alliance, especially since it seems likely with these bans of Darkseer and Batrider, Funnick will indeed play that Batrider. Na'Vi showing that respect towards Ake Chen, gonna get rid of that. Ake Chen, of course, probably the best in the world, and I'm sure Puppy wouldn't even be too disappointed to hear that, since he probably respects Ake to a tremendous degree. But it's gonna be interesting to see, because they are gonna run a support Abaddon most likely. They're gonna put Baron in the offlane, so that means Na'Vi's Trial is completely open, and that means they could potentially go on the offensive. Visage is still in the pool. Shadow Demon's still left in the pool. Alchemist is still left in the pool. Well, most importantly, I guess Visage is still left in the pool. And usually when you're playing against Wisp, you do want to go on the offensive if you have intentions on shutting down Wisp's early game map control. So we'll see how Na'Vi decides to approach it. They have left their tri lane completely open. That means Alliance can't really ban it out too much unless they just get rid of all these strong offensive tri lane heroes. Well, never mind, Abaddon's going to be in the tri lane, and Abaddon is definitely not a strong offensive tri lane hero. So we'll see how this game is going to be approached, as Alliance going to get rid of the Bane Elemental, and Na'Vi going to take a bit of time trying to ban out the last hero for Ake, perhaps. Usually, teams previously tried to ban out against Admiral Bulldog, getting rid of the Lone Druid Nature's Prophet, but then they had to face against EGM and Ake. But now these days, people seem to be banning one of EGM or Ake's heroes and one of Bulldog's heroes in the opening phase, and then they try to focus on the support duo, since Alliance, I think it's safe to say they do have the best supports in the world, at least in terms of teamwork and fighting. I don't know if it's necessarily the best movement in terms of supports, since they like to farm a bit, but they definitely have the best overall supports in the world in the form of EGM as well as Ake. So we'll see if Na'Vi decides to continue to ban out supports, and I don't know if they necessarily respect Black enough to give him a respect ban on the Alchemist, especially since Alchemist and Wisp is not the strongest pairing. So the reserve time is ticking down quite a bit, and Na'Vi gonna get rid of the Juggernaut.
Navi's turn to pick.
Not too sure what to make of this. Juggernaut is a hero who's sometimes banned but rarely picked these days, but I guess the Healing Word presence with the Lone Druid is very, very powerful. The Slice and Dice of Omni Slash, and of course the magical immunity of Juggernaut's Blade Fury, also pretty potent. But another synergy is that, of course, Wisp Tether gives the ally that's tethered to additional amounts of healing, so if Wisp tethers the bear, that bear could feasibly hit on a tower for quite a long time with the Wisp tether as well as the Healing Ward. But Na'Vi going to snatch up the Enchantress, and this will most likely be a defensive challenge for Na'Vi. Enchantress is one of the best offensive junglers, but I don't think a dueling of Abaddon with a carry can necessarily hold its own unless Enchantress just picks up a creep and spends all her time in the lane. So we'll see how Na'Vi decides to approach this early game. Right now, Abaddon is one of those heroes who wants levels, and
10
with the Enchantress
seconds
on his
remaining.
side, he will have an opportunity to find those levels since he will be able to get a lot of
5
pulls, and you
seconds
want to necessarily
remaining.
share the creeps. And he could potentially even jungle with the Enchantress for a bit if he really wants to accelerate his experience growth.
Reserve time.
But that means they're going to leave Wisp open to get up as much experience as possible. But all things considered, Abaddon a very strong Wisp counter because he can just
Navi's
survive
turn to pick.
and heal up his allies who's being targeted to a tremendous degree. As now you're going to pick up the
Alliance's
OD.
turn to
This is
pick.
definitely not a Dendy hero, as Dendy likes to pick up those more mobile heroes, but now you're just picking up heroes that makes the most sense, and they're going to get themselves the strongest mid lane controller in the game. And we'll see if Alliance are forced to respond with a Razor choice. But I got to imagine Alliance are a little bit thrown for a loop here since you don't equate Obsidian or Outworld Devourer with Dendy. And now Alliance, maybe they don't necessarily have the strongest Razor option. I've never actually seen S4 play Razor, so I don't
5
know how Alliance
seconds
will
remaining.
approach this mid lane matchup. And if they can't apply pressure on mid lane, which they definitely can't do
Reserve
with
time.
Keeper of the Light and Wisp, who are definitely not the strongest ganking supports by any means, they won't be able to rotate in Lone Druid for a potential gank like they could do with a Bounty Hunter. So Navi
10
will have mid
seconds
lane
remaining.
firmly on control unless there is a Razor mid lane. But then, of course, there's an Enchantress who could
seconds
potentially
remaining.
shut down the mid lane in the opposition by just getting a Tornado creep and just bullying Alliance out of there. So right now, Navi seem
Navi's
to have the
turn to
solid bench in the
ban.
mid lane, and Alliance, I don't know if they can necessarily do anything about it, as they're going to pick up the Alchemist for Black. Again, Black is known for Lifesteal as well as Alchemist for his most noteworthy heroes, but
10
Alchemist
seconds
himself is a
remaining.
hero, even though he does not need nearly as much time.
5
He does
seconds
need at least level
remaining.
6 or level 7, and he wants to have that Shadow Blade online, which usually takes around 9 to 10 minutes,
5
depending on how
seconds
well the Alchemist
remaining.
farms. So, for the first 9 to 10 minutes, Alliance won't really be able to do anything, with Wisp pulling, with
Alliance's
Keeper Light
turn
trying to
to
get
ban.
experience, and also with Lone Druid not doing too much either, especially with the Jelly Enchantress pressuring him constantly. So Navi gonna get rid of the Kunkka, so they're trying to get rid of that mid lane matchup OD versus Kunkka.
10
Interesting
seconds
decision that they didn't
remaining.
ban out the Razor, but may they also know that S4 has never played Razor.
5 seconds
I mean,
remaining.
I personally have not seen S4 play Razor, so I don't know
Navi's
if
turn
S4
to
would play
pick.
Razor. I know SK has been talking about Night Stalker doing quite well against OD, but Night Stalker doesn't do well against Batten and doesn't do well against Enchantress either if she managed to get the heal off beforehand, so I don't know. But the thing about the Night Stalker vs OD matchup is that he needs to rely on his base damage and early armor to get as much CS as possible in the first 3 levels, and then he just relies on Void Spam after that point once OD
10
does manage to get a
seconds
sufficient amount
remaining.
of points into that Astral Imprisonment. But I don't think
5
Alliance will pick up
seconds
the Night Stalker
remaining.
here, because there isn't really the best ganking partners until Wisp hits level 6, and Navi gonna pick up the Troll, one of the favorites of
Alliance's turn
Rattlesnake
to pick.
International, aka Kaipi, and a hero who sometimes has been the first couple picks and sometimes is not seen whatsoever. And Troll, of course, one of the best pushers in the game, one of the best laning carries in the game. His only problem is that he's single target focused and he can't do anything against Ghost Scepter. But in terms of pushing, Troll is pretty much unrivaled in terms of carries. Alliance gotta get the Magnus.
Navi's turn to
Really
pick.
interesting choice, and I've got to imagine at level 1 S4 will put a point into Empower, since level 1 Shockwave won't do too much, and S4 will just be concentrating on getting as much farm as possible. So he's going to put 1 point into Empower very early on, and since Empower has such a low mana cost, he can use it without too much rebuttal from that Astral Imprisonment, and actually use it to buff up his base damage, where he can actually compete to a reasonable extent against the likes of Outworld Devourer. But right now,
10
I do have
seconds
to firmly
remaining.
put the draft in favor of Navi. I think Alliance were a bit pigeonholed
5
with the Wisp as
seconds
well as the Lone
remaining.
Druid opening choices. And you see the lack of versatility from Bulldog definitely coming back to bite Alliance in the ass in a couple games, but keep in mind that definitely did not happen in TI3. And again, this is just a group stage match of an online tournament that is a LAN finals. It's not TI3
Prepare
level.
for battle.
Also keep in mind Alliance are playing with the stand, but interesting the players and teams on the side. Navi, we're going to have Puppy playing the Enchantress. Troll Warlord is going to be handled by Havos. Dendi is playing the Outworld Devourer. Kuroki is playing the Abaddon, and Funnick is playing the Barret. And me on the side of Alliance, we're going to have S4, the son of Magnus Magnuson, playing the Magnus. Ake is playing the Keeper of the Light. LGD.Black.International, standing in for Loda, who has a fever, is going to be playing the Alchemist. Looks like EGM is playing one of his signature heroes, which is the Wisp, and Admiral Bulldog will be taking care of the Lone Druid. So I expect S4 to be pulled. It looks like he was pulled 2 sets of regeneration, so you can see that S4 is really counting on getting that bottle up ASAP, because he knows at the early levels Admiral Devourer's Imprisonment can only sap so much of his mana, but once he manages to get that level 3 or level 5 up on that hero, then Magnus won't really have enough mana to cast any shockwaves. So S4, he is counting on using the Stout Shield to block as much damage as possible and counting on his teammates' regen so he can hold his own, get that bottle, and then just push Outworld Devourer out of the lane by just spamming the Shockwave over and over again, because the main weakness of Outworld Devourer in the middle lane, if there is a weakness, is that he can't really push the wave and control the runes like a Magnus can. So, interesting build, but it makes a lot of sense for S4. Meanwhile, Dendi usually is pulled quite a bit in mid lane matchup, and it seems like this is not an exception. Actually, it was interesting to see in TI3, Dendi was not pulled as much, but in every single other game I saw before TI3, Dendi was pulled to a ridiculous margin by Puppey as well as Kuroki. But in this game, Dendi is going to be pulled once again, and an Illusion Rune coming in from Ake, probably the best rune he could have possibly gotten, because DD wouldn't really have mattered too much, but now with 3 Keeper of the Lights hitting on Dendi, that is going to give S4 free reign to potentially pick up a very fast bottle, and Ake is just going to make Dendi's life a lot more difficult than it otherwise would have been. You know, Kuroki gonna just harass Bulldog out. Really not too much that an Enchantress and a Ban can do, especially since the creep spawn at 30 seconds to a Lone Druid from stopping this pull, so they're just gonna leave it to it. Bulldog just gonna happily allow his bear to tank up a little bit of damage and is starting to get his farm rolling. But meanwhile, there's already gonna be a bit of engagement as Funnick has rotated himself through, and the Enchantress creep already being microed, and actually some nice usage of that micro to force S4 away, and S4 gonna be forced to burn his salve, and S4, despite that early help from Ake, is just being pressured. It only has 2 CS, and you can thank that 6 base armor up on Denny from withstanding a lot of that Keeper of the Light early illusion harassment. And I personally don't think that's very fair that Dendy gets 6 base armor at level 1, as Dendy could have potentially picked up the kill. Well, no, same move speed. He couldn't have picked up the kill. Meanwhile, Havost on the bottom lane just gonna be farming up with those Roiling Axes, and EGM gonna be pulling. Black looks like he's gonna rush that very fast Midas. You can see he did not spend too much of his initial gold early on whatsoever. He knew Funnick would just be taking to the jungle very early on, and he's gonna go for that very greedy fast Midas build that Loda likes to do on Alchemist as well if he's unchallenged, and that means even with the fast Midas, which he will be able to get at maybe 3.5-4 minutes in, he should still be able to pick up a Shadow Blade at 9 to 10 minutes, which is maybe a minute shorter than the previous usage, or than he previously would have gotten if he just chose to rush Shadow Blade straight up. And of course, that Midas, more importantly, gives him a huge boost of experience, which cannot be underestimated by any means. Meanwhile, pressure going down on the top lane, or bottom lane, as Puppey's going to rotate in. Already has the Dark Troll Summoner, and that means he can summon a bunch of skeletons. They're going to go to work on the bear, and this could be 300 gold very early on. It definitely will be 300 gold very early on. Question is, who can pick up the last hit? It's going to be given to Havost, and 300 gold for a troll this early on, definitely nothing to sneeze at. So even though they didn't get the tower, they almost got as much gold into the back pocket of Havost from that bear kill. And that's why you don't see Lone Druid nearly as much these days, except for teams like Alliance, who just rely on that Lone Druid to such a huge extent. As Ake, only level 2, can't do too much in terms of stopping the push, and Puppey taking way too much harassment, as Kuroki trying to preserve Puppey's life for as long as possible. Puppey hasn't even popped the Nature's Attendance just yet, and being clipped from that Illuminate means he will finally have to back off. Meanwhile, this melee matchup is just not even a contest. S4 wasn't able to capitalize on the illusion harassment because, again, Dendi having 6 base armor means that he won't take nearly as much in comparison to other mid lane heroes. And S4, he does have the bottle, but he just won't have enough mana to cast too many shockwaves now that Dendi is going to be close to hitting that level 5. And Alchemist did finish a 4-minute Midas on the dot. Still, this mid lane matchup, Magnus is an item dependent mid lane hero. He wants to have Arcane Boots and he wants to have Dagger. and it's going to be a long time before he picks up those
Radiant's
spells
middle tower is under attack.
or picks up those items. You can see only 9 CS, and that means he's going to be in a lot of trouble for quite a bit. But he is level 5, so that means he'll get to get maybe 2 of these creeps. Yes, he does get 2 of the creeps, so nice shockwave positioning. Unfortunately, I don't know how much of the experience he got, but still, beggars can't be choosers, as S4 is going to take so much damage from Dendi, ushering him away with that 94 damage, thanks in large part to those astral imprisonments, stealing a lot of intelligence. You know, Funnick just jungling it up, has 25 CS, and looks like he's just going to rush the dagger straight up rather than picking up the bottle or the tranquil boots. So at this rate, he will have maybe a 8.5, 9-minute dagger if Puppy stacks his camp, which of course he couldn't do since he is roaming to the lane to perhaps set up a gank. Now, the question is, does S4 see the auras being given to the creeps from the Dark Troll Summoner as well as the Wild Wing? No, Setting's Clip's gonna be used. Here comes a Troll Net, and this will be first blood. S4, he drafted, and he knew what to expect from this mid lane matchup. And boy, I've gotta tell you, he's gotta be regretting this decision by quite a bit, as he is just not having any chance to do what he wants to do in that mid lane role. You know, Havos, level 5, has the phase boots finished, and you can see the early game advantage firmly in favor of Navi, but the experience advantage is actually slightly in favor of Alliance for a bit, probably because of the Midas usage, as well as Lundred picking up a bit more than anticipated in the offlane. But a large burn will have to be carried by Black in this game as he finished the phase boots, and now he's going to start working on that Shadow Blade, and at this rate he will have it around the 9-minute mark with 3 points in the greed and a very fast Midas. This should be a relatively early Shadow Blade, and he really needs to get it up ASAP. But Abaddon is slowly but surely getting his levels, and if Abaddon gets too many levels, that Aphotic Shield and Death Coil, or Mist Coil, just gonna be an enormous problem, as here comes a Centaur coming in. Funnick is here as well. The chain stuns onto S4 are gonna be applied. S4 does not have enough mana to scare away. The intelligence just being drained over and over again means that S4 could not scare away, and Enchantress did pick up the last hit. So Nai, with another successful mid lane roam, just handling Alliance in the mid lane as was predicted, and that ward was demolished since Alliance, well, they planted a weird Observer ward, and it got punished by Navi. Not too sure what that ward is actually designed to do. Maybe see up the hill for Enchantress? I don't know. But it was sentry warded, since I think Alliance, or since Navi were expecting a sentry ward to be placed to potentially spot out a Smoker to see or an invisibility or gank.
Dire's middle tower is under attack.
You can see Dendi already very close to finishing his mech as he's taking a bit of damage, but yes, Tranquil Boots online, just gonna pop it. And S4 going in a bit hard. You can see Dendi preserving the Tranquil Boots usage for as long as possible, just to perhaps bait S4 into an improper engagement. But all the while, Troll is proving why he's one of the best pushes in the game, just popping Battle Trance and using the natural attack speed that Fervor gives him to pressure on this tier 2 tower to an immense extent. And that is going to force a rotation by Ake. Havos did apply the slow on the Royal Axis. Can he get the bashes he needs? No, he will give up the chase as he knows it's not worth trading his life. But S4, will he die a third time? Kuroki trying to get in position, doesn't have any points into Mark of Avernus, so can't use that slow to give his teammates a bit of extra move speed. But Navi's still going to be okay. They're going to take a tower without too much of a fuss, and right now Alliance have got to be scrambling. We need to see that Shadow Wave finished up on Black ASAP. It's actually going to be a bit slower than I thought, 9 minutes, although he did go for Midas as well as phase. If he went for Stand Boots, then the Shadow Blade would have been finished as an engagement broke out, and it was a massacre.
Dire's bottom tower is under attack.
So I'm just going to rewind a bit. Let's see what happened. S4, how much mana do you have? Not too much. Ooh, Dendi, he spotted out EGM in the jungle as Barrett did pick up Keep for the Light, and OD just decided to pop that Say's Eclipse rather than wait for Tether to come online and was to potentially escape. As
Dire's
Kuroki gonna
bottom
roam in,
tower is under attack.
still only level 4, but Abaddon showing that with the buffs that he recently had, means that he can still do quite a bit. As S4 definitely gonna die. The skewer animation not gonna be stopped, as well. There was honestly nothing that Agnes could do, and right now this is just turning into a pub stomp by Navi. As even if Loda were here, I don't know how much she would have been able to do. Maybe Alliance wouldn't have picked such a defensive carry. Maybe they would have gone for someone like a CK or a Sven. But right now, Navi just jumping all over Alliance's back at the moment, and Funnick already has the dagger. This is not looking good for the forces of Sweden, as right now Navi are just handling Alliance and taking it to them, not allowing Alliance any breathing room, not allowing the supports to create too much movement, and just giving Bulldog a very farm-dependent offlaner, which means he really can't contribute much in the early game. You know, Puppy, Intelligence, Treads finish, Abaddon, level 5, third point into that Photic Shield. Sometimes I personally like to skip 1 point to Miscoil and then put a point to Mark of the Avernus or Curse of Avernus just to get that chasing potential. But Navi, they have the Blink Dagger, they have Sticky Napalm. I don't know if they necessarily need too much more chasing potential, as Puppy just going to farm in the offensive jungle right from under the noses of Alliance. Unstable Concoction going to be used, going to take a huge chunk of Puppy's HP out of there, as the Centaur going to be microed. Lasso going to be applied to EGM. EGM definitely going to perish as he's trying to desperately get on out of there, but only could survive for so long. The bear, so fair. Well, it was so fair, now it's dead, as the relentless chasing potential of Navi gonna come in full force. Funnick will be blinking forward to drop another napalm. No, the Astral Imprisonment will be there, and now S4 could potentially be in Loud Troll. The stun is there as well. No man skewer waiting, as S4 once again gonna perish, as he just stayed in a little bit too long, and he paid for it with his life, as Navi just climbing all over Alliance saying, this is what should have happened at TI3. And Alliance are just like, yeah, whatever, we won $800,000 more than you, so you can just fuck off. I'm sure those are the exact words being exchanged. At least that's what it sounds like in my mind. Avos picked up Helendare, gonna enchant that Alpha Wolf Creep, and that means Troll can go to work on Roshan very, very easily if the need should arise. Kuroki, now level 6, is essentially immortal with that borrowed time, considering Alliance's level predicament. Black did have the Shadow Blade, but that very quick Shadow Blade can only do so much. Alchemist cannot solo carry a game against 5 heroes at this point. He needs an AC, because at this point Alchemist is still here with only 3 base armor. He really needs to have a little bit of extra HP or a little bit of additional armor to really go toe-to-toe with the immense teamfight potential of Navi, and those items are going to be very far away, as looks like Alliance gonna smoke up, gonna abandon the pursuit of that middle tower, and instead try and do what they can to get themselves back in the game. The question is, will they find success, as Dendy has the mecha finish, actually already at 1800 additional gold, likely gonna rush that side devices. Here comes the engagement. Black gonna charge up the unstable concoction, gonna get that first hit off, applying that extra bit of damage buff, and Dendy is gonna fall, can't even pop the mecha, and that means Navi will be forced to retreat. A nice initiation, as Navi were clearly expecting Shadowblade gank coming in from a different angle because that Sentry Ward. We're not expecting it to come right from the tower, and Dendy paid for it with his life, but still, Alliance have a long way to go before they can get themselves back into this game. All the while, Bulldog's farming up. A bit surprising that he only has 35 CS. He hasn't died, but the jungle is just not safe for the Lone Druid, and Troll is probably just ushering Bulldog away at any possibility, and unless Bulldog gets a lucky bash, there's really nothing he can do, and Troll can actually fight back during the entangling route because, of course, he can just man up versus the bear, and I'm sure Bulldog does not want to give up any extra bit of gold to the forces of Navi, and that's probably why he's playing a bit more defensive than previously anticipated. And that's going to allow Havos to pick up a free Aegis of the Immortal, as his Alpha Wolf is tanking it up, and he already finished the Yasha. Probably going to go into that S and Y, as Bulldog desperately trying to save up for the raids, but that is still going to be around 5 minutes away at this rate. And meanwhile, S4 doesn't even have enough for Arcane Boots. He was just manhandling that mid lane, as he should be. Magnus or OD. I honestly don't know what S4 was expecting. but may want to try out something new. I don't know. May never had too much hope in this game to begin with, but I really doubt that's the case. S4 strikes me as a very prideful player. But meanwhile, Alliance definitely caught on the back foot, but still, well, they are down quite a bit as the Midas can only do so much as there is going to be engaging Blink Firefly Lasso onto Alliance. EGM is going to spell the end for that little puff ball as Havos going to come in with the Aegis of the Immortal, clean up the jungle, and this will likely be the end of the tier 2 mid as Puppy is there to clear out the creeps as fast as possible. And right now, this is just looking grimmer and grimmer by the moment for Alliance.
Dire's middle tower is under attack.
And this is what Havos does better than any other carry in the game. He knows when to fight, he knows when he's at some of his strongest pursuits. And right now he's, or strongest positions, and right now he's definitely a lot stronger than anybody on side Alliance, and that's why he's grouping up with his team rather than farming up compared to other carries you might see. And I mean, Black honestly couldn't do anything, so he has no choice but to farm in this game, as he is going to go for that BKB, but that is going to be a long time coming just because he has no way or no room to farm up. You know, Funnick with the haste rune. Oh, this is the worst possible rune for Bulldog, as he is going to take so much damage. He is definitely going to die, especially since his haste rune is not even close to half being done. Bulldog can't even teleport away because there will be a flame break pushing out the lone druid, and Bulldog will unfortunately die for Alliance. S4 skewered in but could not get in position for an RP, and all the while the tier 2 is being claimed by Navi from Alliance. This is just looking utterly hopeless for the Swedes. Well, this is a manhandling. There's no other way to put it, but the two best teams in the world, I think it's safe to say Navi and Alliance are the best teams in the world. Well, maybe the best teams in the world on land environment, since Navi in an online environment aren't as impressive. But the two best teams in the world, I don't know if they were necessarily expecting this result, but I guess this shows the familiarity of Loda really making a difference, because Black is not really playing bad. It's just maybe the picks were not there. It seems like more of a defensive lineup rather than a super Alliance focused lineup. Maybe Puppy capitalized on the hesitation that S4 was having, giving Black an aggressive carry. But if that's the case, then that is just the mark of trust in your team. And of course, Alliance will have a little less trust because Loda is not there in the picture. But now you're gonna group up. Is this the second bear? It is the second bear. It's taking so much damage. It's getting bashed. Keep in mind, when this bear dies, it's going to be dead for the next 80 seconds or so, as Havos is going to work. Still has the Aegis online, and he knows the Aegis will expire relatively soon. And the Abaddon Aphotic Shield in conjunction with Mist Coils, just giving them so much extra HP. Abaddon OD, what an annoying combination. Means Abaddon will never run out of mana, which is, of course, Abaddon's weakness in the early stages of the game. But with these Essence Aura procs, this is just the most stupid push I've ever seen. Oh, here troll, run at the tower, hit it a couple times, I'll heal you up, I'll preserve your life with an Aphotic Shield. Hey, Alliance, what can you do about this? That's right, nothing. Oh man. As Funnick gonna fly overhead, looking to get a hero in his clutches, will be able to claim EGM and uses the Force Staff. EGM definitely gonna die, as EGM is still alive for now. Enchantress did pick up the last hit. Dendy taking a lot of damage, gonna pop the mecha, is gonna get blown up. S4 does manage to get off a solid RP, but Kuroki is still there. Pop the borrowed time, gonna get a shield off onto Dendy, as Keeper Light will be forced to buy back, as here comes Alchemist trying to do whatever he can, but it's just simply not enough. 4 stacks Napalm, and the blink forward by Funnick will be able to snag Black, and this looks to be at least the first set of barracks for Navi. 15-1. This is just an absolute massacre by the Ukrainian German force with the Estonian Puppy. As right now, Denny, the only person to have died on Navi. Denny, you're such a feeder. I'm sure his team is probably relentlessly playing him. 0, 0, 0, 0, 2 deaths. Denny, biggest feeder in Europe. But Navi gonna clean up the first set of backs without too much trouble. Black, he already bought back, but he just can't do anything. S4 already expanded the RP. And right now, Navi got the melee barracks. They don't necessarily need to stick around too much longer if they really want to get the range barracks. They're just going to back off, get the mid lane, and then probably look to end the game. Because right now they know they're at their strongest. And why wait for any bit of time where heroes like Alchemist could potentially farm back online. Bulldog still trying to desperately get his way towards Radiance, as he did die, didn't buy back, so he preserved his life for a little bit longer. The only chance the Lions have is if Bulldog can finish up that Radiance. And I don't know if Navi will give him enough time to do just that, as Modred is not a flash farmer. He wants to have steady lane equilibrium, and that's why you can see the forces of Alliance positioned so carefully to keep protection up on Bulldog at all times. But Navi just right now have superior map control, and although Alliance do see Kuroki as well as Funnick, they don't know where the rest of Navi is for the most part. Well, they know where Puppy is, I guess. Almost a 20k gold advantage, 20 minutes in the game, 14k experience advantage. I don't know if Alliance can get themselves out of this situation. They are one of those teams who can come back from a lot, but this might be a little bit too difficult to overcome. If they had a Blink Dagger on Magnus, I'd feel a bit more confident, but as for just trying to do whatever he can, won't be able to pick up the Blink Dagger for at least another 8 minutes. So it's going to be up to Bulldog to finish that Relic. He did finish the Relic, but now he needs a Radiance, and he's going to be caught out. Oh, the Hex going down onto the Bear. Well, you were so fair, now you're dead, as that Panda Bear never stood a chance in hell. And does Bulldog have another resummon up? He will, but that means he won't have a second resummon up for the next team fight. And also that means he can't farm up his Radiance, as Funnick gonna blink in, finds EGM for the umpteenth time, and EGM, he was probably wondering what he did to deserve this. Navi's saying this is what should have happened when he had Wisp, as right now, Navi just punishing Lions at every opportunity. And you can see the difference between a hero like Lone Druid and a hero like Nature's Prophet is if Nature's Prophet was in the picture, then this lane might have been pushed out, or this lane might have been pushed out. Lone Druid, you can only just sit there and watch as his bears die, and there's really not too much that Alliance can do about it. Host just looking to end the game ASAP, picked up a VIP booster just to give him as much HP as possible. Now he no longer has the Aegis to give him that extra bit of security. Dendy has finished Scythe of Vice. Funnick, he's had the Force Staff for quite a bit, picks up a Yule Scepter as well, and SK tells me that he likes this build a lot more than the Mask of Madness Boat 7 build, and I think in this game it's a lot better. Mask of Madness build seems like if you want to get a really, really long range initiation off, then it's probably the better way to go, but in this situation, now he doesn't really need that super long range initiation. All they need is a good initiation, and then preserve Barra's life with that Yule Scepter.
Dire's bottom tower is under attack.
So 19-2 is the score, as Alliance slowly but surely being whittled away. Checking out the net worth, well, Troll has almost a 3.8k net worth advantage over a Midas rushed Alchemist, who got 3 points in Devil's Greed so early on, but honestly, I don't know if Black could necessarily have played better. I think it's just the picks. I think Black played just fine as EGM. Oh my god. Probably just cursing Funnick, as right now Funnick and EGM are not bros, as that impetus hit just went to work. The support's being picked off in the base, as right now, without Keeper of the Light, Alliance do not have a hope in terms of preserving the life of this tier 3 middle, as Barrett is still hanging around. But Navi just instead going to turn their attentions towards the middle lane, while Vost applies that pressure on the bottom lane, just bashing that bear into oblivion. And I think this bear is dead. One more hit. No, it's going to be safe for now, but that is going to be the tier 3 tower for Navi. So this just shows you Navi, when they get their picks online, if Puppy is given free reign in the draft, and if they just play almost impeccable Dota, they can stun a team like Alliance, who is probably overall the best team in the world, since they are simply more consistent. But here comes the initiation by Black. this might be the last fight, as there was a good RP as well as a good skewer backwards, but there's just simply not enough damage. A bad Enchantress, so damn tanky, and Mechanism being used as well. GG is called by Bulldog, and this will be the end of Alliance in this game. And honestly, they just got outplayed, outdrafted, and there's not much more I can say about it. 26-2 is the final score. More thorough romping I wouldn't have expected, as I don't even know how much Loda could have done, other than maybe S4 would have picked a more aggressive carry like a Chaos Knight. But it was just the draft. The draft was not there for Alliance, and Navi, they showed when they managed to get the thorough out draft on, which Puppey is so very capable of doing, as he has done so many times in the past. It just made it look easy, even against the best team in the world. So Navi flexing their muscles a bit. It might be a bit of a sort of late, but better late than never, I guess, as even though this isn't for an $800,000 match, Navi still showed that they do have what it takes to not only beat Alliance, but just wreck them. As that's going to be the end of this cast. Thanks for watching, and I'll probably be back with more casts in the future. See you next time. Peace.